Welcome back, devious readers and late night bingers. Pull your blankets close because tonight we're turning up the temperature. We're diving head first into the dangerous world of toxic codependency, forbidden friction, and the thin line between absolute hatred and pure, unadulterated obsession. Today we're staging a crossover match in the deepest depth of purgatory. In one corner, we have the ice rink. We're talking about Illya Rozanov and Shane Hollander from Rachel Reid's Heated Rivalry. Two hockey icons who spent a decade traded between public fistfights and secret, sweat-drenched hotel room hookups. In the other corner, we stepped into the gas-lit streets of New Orleans to meet Louis and Lestat from AMC's Interview with the Vampire, a pair of immortal monsters who rewrite the rules of domestic bliss with flying blood, broken bones, and a centuries-long telepathic chokehold. What happens when we pit elite sports rivals against the apex predators of the undead? On the surface, they belong to two different worlds. One couple fights for the Stanley Cup, the other fights for the control of human souls. But look closer, peel back the layers of heavy breathing and bruised egos. Both pairs share the exact same fatal flaw, and inabilities to survive without the very person who destroys them. Tonight, we parse out the anatomy of their obsession. Who has the more devastating power dynamic? Whose secret trysts pack a bigger emotional punch? And ultimately, which duo reigns supreme as the undisputed kings of I hate you, they'll never leave me? Lock your doors and pour something strong. Let's get into the heat. Whew. All right. So here we are. We are here.
This bitch.
We are here. Here we are. Seems like Corey T is joining us. You missed the intro. But she'll be here for the fun. So, oh my goodness. This crossover that we have staged, I'm excited about it. So we're gonna dive into it momentarily. I would like us to start with some of the personas and just a couple of questions, but we will be mostly focusing on couple dynamics in this episode of Interview versus Heated Rivalry. Let's get into it. All right. Let's set the stage. Thank you. So I'd like to start with Lestat and Illya, their personas, and just a couple of questions about how their personas kind of shape who they are. So we do have Illya Rozanov. Just a quick overview. He's a Russian hockey superstar, and he masks his deep vulnerability and anxiety and intense capacity for love behind a public persona of being arrogant, chaotic, and some playful indifference. Whereas we have Lestat, who's a French vampire. He masks his profound fear of abandonment and existential loneliness behind a theatrical, seductive, love him, and ruthless, dominant public facade. Here's our first question. In what ways does Illya's trolling behavior in press conferences mirror Lestat's theatrical, on-stage persona in public settings or social settings? So I'll say that again. So we know Illya is a troll. So how he trolls in the press conferences, how does that mirror Lestat's theatrical behaviors in social settings?
You going for deep early. In what ways does Illya's trolling
In the press
conferences mirror Lestat's theatricality on stage or in social settings? Okay, so both of them are showmen, right? They live for it. I think Lestat takes it to another level. I do have to say that. I think though that that Illya, it's all about his physicality, if you will, his dominance of other players. Whereas to a certain extent, Lestat as well, it's not necessarily about players, but it's about everybody and everybody around him. He wants to dominate everyone. He's okay with you thinking that he's weak until he dominates.
Okay. I like that. So for me, it's the French white and the white Russian. I'm gonna coin that. It's too good to just be for me. The French white and the white Russian. I agree with the fact that they are both definitely showmen. Like you said, Lestat does take it to a completely different level. And then he has that whole immortal thing working for him, and so there's that. He can always move on and go to another city or something else after he's pretty much done the most that he could in one particular area. But I do think that they're both over the top because it's just that it's a persona. If I come off loud, then I don't have to deal with the other things. And so I'm often told that an empty wagon makes a whole lot of noise. And so because of your deficits in one area, you tend to do the most in another. All right. Just one more question about the Lestat versus Illya, and then we'll move on to Louis versus Shane's persona.
Hold on, wait a minute. Corey, do you have any thoughts?
Oh, sorry.
Okay, I heard him earlier. I was hoping that he was around. Maybe he's doing something with his computer. My bad. I'm sorry. I stopped you. Please continue.
No, it is okay. So next question. How do their respective public personas protect them from the scrutiny of their respective world, i.e. the National Hockey League or the Vampire/Mortal worlds? So how do their public personas protect them from scrutiny?
So first, all four characters, there's not much about them that makes people think that they are gay or that they have sex with men. And so they're able to live a life without too much scrutiny. The difference, however, is with Lestat and Louis, they actually live together, which for their age, their supposed age, that was a little weird. After a certain amount of time, you should have been married. You shouldn't have been, living with another man. All of that. In terms of Illya and Shane, they're playing hockey and they're dominant in their sport, and so therefore, it's less likely for anyone to even think that about you. And let's face it, they're not clockable, if you will. I don't know if you know that term.
Don't insult me.
So, as far as that's concerned, so they both have those two things, I guess, working in their favor, if you will, depending on the context. So that's something that they have in common in terms of what the world or what society sees when they look at them. In the case of Louis is a pimp. I don't know too many people who would think that a pimp has sex with men. I mean, I'm just it is what it is. Now Lestat, on the other hand, he's European, he's Parisian. And so Parisians, automatically Americans are going to look at a Parisian a little bit differently than they look at, other Americans. And so therefore he gets kind of a pass for some of his eccentricities, if you will.
So beautifully stated.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, with Lestat, as far as like the public scrutiny in the vampire or mortal world, he's able to kind of morph or walk between worlds because he's immortal. He has all of these unique abilities, so I feel like he's a little bit more protected in a sense versus Illya. He's flirty and he is he comes off as extroverted and all of these things, but he has to hide a lot of who he is because of where he's from. And so I think, he's comfortable in the circles that he runs in because those people have just as much to lose, I guess. And so I think that's a protective barrier for him. All right.
Okay. So, Corey, your thoughts?
So I missed the first part of the question.
Hey, Corey.
Hey there. How are you?
I'm good. I'll reread. So the question is how, and so when I say the question is specifically about Illya and Lestat.
Yeah.
And so how do their respective public personas protect them from the scrutiny in their respective worlds? So, i.e., the National Hockey League versus the Vampire and Mortal World.
So for Illya and the other one,
the disrespect.
The other one. It is really about, they have that option to hide behind those personas, right? The fame, the money, the ability to use that to kind of create almost like basically a closet, so to speak. The vampires kind of have the same thing. It's just based on the show, the time period in which the show depicts. It was all very hush hush. It was all in the closet as well. So they're very similar in those aspects, right? It's amazing though that both shows are so similar in the way that they depict gay life, being their two totally different types of shows. Two totally different shows, but yet the premise of it still focuses on hiding, being in the closet, and the impact that has on both of them, particularly more so as it relates to Louis and the type of life that he wants to live, versus Lestat. And then in the interim, in the beginning of Heated Rivalry, the alternate of what was, of how, why can't I think of his name? Hudson Williams' character, how
Shane.
he wants, Shane, how he wants to live, or how Illya wants to live, against each other, right? So it's interesting how it kind of plays out in the show, and I wonder if how much of that was intention for Heated Rivalry, or was it just a fact of the time?
I'm going to believe that it's the time. I mean, we're talking about what 1910 teens, whatever, and also the early 2000s into the early teens,
like 2016.
Yeah,
I think is when it ended.
And so, especially as sports stars, hyper macho situation that they find themselves in, a conservative league, if you will, this is not something that they would be rushing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Except when they see that it's possible, right? Because at the end of the show, ultimately Illya is like, Shane asked him to come to the cottage and he's all hesitant, etc. But ultimately when he sees the other couple, Kip and Scott, that pushes him and he's like, oh my God, it's possible. Shane, I'm coming to the cottage. I've watched that one episode like 4 times.
That's all.
I'm due for a rewatch. I'm gonna go back and watch the whole series again.
All right. So as I stated earlier, most of the questions will be geared more toward couple dynamics, but as we're front loading, wanting to just kind of compare and contrast our couple, or our individuals rather, Lestat and Illya, how they're similar versus how Louis and Shane are similar. So just a quick overview of Shane. So Shane, we know, is a Canadian hockey prodigy who crafts a flawless, hyper-disciplined, and sterile public image to protect his career and hide his sexuality. So he internalizes a lot of immense pressure, which leads to his severe anxiety. Versus Louis Dupont-Dulac, a Black Creole businessman, again, because we're focusing on the show as opposed to the book, our books. A Black Creole businessman turned vampire who maintains a meticulous, composed, and human-like facade to mask his internal monster, his profound guilt, and his intense emotional suffering. Here's my first question, or directive. So can we compare Shane's pressure to being the golden boy of the NHL with Louis' need to maintain a respectable, wealthy facade in a Jim Crow New Orleans and later eras? I'm sorry.
Or you want to take that?
Yeah. So I think it's a great comparison. But what I will say is that it's a little bit different because there's also the added pressure of being a Creole in Louisiana at the height of the time period that they were in, and I think you got to take that into consideration. Shane is a white passing male in the mid to late 90s, early 2000s.
Asiatic descent.
Of Asiatic descent, right? And really, but again, white passing, right? So there's something that's afforded to him that I think people of color in that similar time frame was not afforded. Also, with the money, etc., he could live a life and could, really be kind of who he wanted to be. The only barrier for him was himself. Because think about it, at that particular point in time in the late 90s to early 2000s, we were really getting to the point where it was, some families had some issues, but we were getting to that point where it was, I'm here, right? Rue had made a splash, right? I mean, people were really starting to accept gay culture and pop culture. So it wasn't as much of a leap. Yeah, homophobia was still real, but it wasn't the same, right? It wasn't the same situation. So that's my answer to that.
So the idea of maintaining respectability, I'm going to focus on that. Specifically as it relates to Louis. Louis had a lot of pressure from his mother. To a certain extent, he had pressure from his family when you think about his brother, when you think about his sister. Also, when you're talking about those white businessmen. So he had those types of pressures in his place. Shane didn't have those types of pressures from his family. When specifically asked, he basically told Illya, "No, I really think that my family will be okay with me."
Right. And that's confirmed later on when the mom was kind of put off by the fact that he thought it was going to be an issue for him to come out and be who he was.
For him, it was mostly about the fact that he's this NHL hockey star, right? And he wants to maintain everything that he has because he really wants to play the game. To him, it wasn't about the money. It wasn't about the fame. It wasn't about, endorsements. It was about playing the game, which he loved. And he wanted to continue to play that game. So for him, that was his North Star, the game. Whereas with Louis, early on, it was about maintaining for his family. So that might not have even been for Louis, what his gut, what his true desires really were. That was the mantle that was placed upon him. Shane didn't have that mantle to protect his family, but Louis did.
And do you think that kind of that was in conflict with his desires for Lestat? Do you think that was do you think ultimately, and I never thought about this, do you think that ultimately was the catalyst for their toxic relationship?
Yes, it provided an out for him.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it was just, we gonna stroll down Bourbon Street and we gonna sit and we gonna talk. It was an out because
juleps.
Okay, and this was someone that he had feelings for.
Yeah.
Right, he had feelings for this man, and he was exploring this man in a different way. He was okay with going to the swamps and
the exploring.
And throws and wonders.
He was okay with that, but then all of a sudden, Lestat comes along, and this is someone that he can bond with on a level that he had never had before, which is similar, eventually, to what Shane and Illya had.
Again, I love this crossover because it's not something that would be on the frontal lobe that you would initially even think to compare, contrast, juxtapose, put in the same conversation. So forgive me if I keep smiling and my face hurts because I'm super excited about having this discussion. I'm like really geeking out over here. So
I'm geeked out.
So next question as it pertains to Louis and Shane, and then we'll get into these couple comparisons and dynamics. So we know that Shane struggles with his internalized conflict and his self-loathing and the fear of being in his true self, which is a gay man, that it'll essentially ruin his life's work in hockey. How does this mirror Louis' profound existential guilt over his nature as a killer and a vampire?
My lord. How does this mirror Louis' profound guilt?
That's a lot of questions.
Well, so we know. All right, so let's go ahead and chop this elephant up, right? So we know that Shane is struggling, right, with being a gay man in the National Hockey League. That's the easy part of it, right? And not wanting to ruin his life's work. Got that? Real simple. How does that compare to Louis? Because we know Louis constantly struggles with holding on to that humanity, and being a killer and a vampire. So how does that internal struggle that Louis is having compare to that of Shane? I don't know that I made it any better. I might have made it worse.
So I think ultimately you can really just say it's almost a fight against. I can relate it to coming out, right? It's a fight against what you have always been taught, but what your heart really wants, right? And what you really want. And I think that's the best way that I can answer that question for both of them. It's because it's so similar, right? It's really the same fight. It's just a different lens that's on for each of those characters, right? For Louis, it's more personal, it's more visceral. It has, implications in color and race and class and all those things in it. And for Shane, it's not that, but it's still a matter of who he is and his identity and how he's always seen himself and how he's always thought of himself. But ultimately, Illya, kind of breaks that down but which is weird because Illya has the same situation, right? With his family. But it's weird how he can move past that because of how he felt about Shane.
How much of that, though, is because Illya was living in the United States and not in Russia? You know what I'm saying? Like
That's true.
He was free to go to the gay clubs. He was free to express himself in a way that he would have been hiding in Russia.
He would have been killed in Russia.
That's true. So it was that sense of freedom that he has here that he did not have when he, was in Russia. And ultimately, you see that when he went back to Russia in the show, how he was very reserved. He even had a beard, and all the things, right? So I guess that is different.
But I want to go to the question. The question was asking about the self-loathing and the fear. So, it's so heavy. So Louis, yes, he had self-loathing over the fact that he was gay, and he he wanted to be gay, right?
Mm-hmm.
He didn't want to be bisexual. He wanted to be gay. Very similar to Shane. Shane wanted to be gay. He didn't want to be bisexual. But his self-loathing was wrapped up in his sexuality. I'm not so certain that Shane was really afraid of the fact that he was gay. I think he was afraid of his feelings. I think once he came to terms with the fact that, okay, this is who I am, I think he was able to then go out into the world. I think that it took Louis centuries to get over the fact that he was gay.
Isn't that the beauty of that immortality versus mortality?
Correct.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And the time period in which he lived. So
I was just about to say that.
You know, I mean, he has to fight against that. But which is also weird is that the fact that he has to fight against it, but as time progressed, it wasn't until we got into the 70s and early 80s where you started to see some of that kind of, go away.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if that's because of the trauma of the whole Lestat situation and everything that was, happened as a result of that, and Claudia and all of that stuff. I don't know if that trauma prohibited his growth. I could see where it might have.
Very fair point. And I hate that I cannot see your face, Corey. I hate it.
I don't know why, because it says I'm in the show and everyone can see and hear you, but obviously y'all can't hear me. I mean, y'all can't see me.
Yeah, no, we can hear you. We just can't see you.
Is it even a picture of me, or is it just
no?
Not even.
I mean, I can see you, but I know that Illya can't see you.
Can't.
Interesting.
All right, so we're gonna move into some of these couple comparisons. So, of course, we have our Lestat and Louis versus our Shane and our Illya. We have our mortals versus our immortals. All right. So we're going to get into the foundation of the attraction, the spark, if you will.
Yes.
So we know that. Say it again, Corey.
Yes.
You say yes. So we know that both couples start with a very intense, immediate physical chemistry that marks a deeper emotional complexity. So how does this enemies to lovers athletic rivalry between Illya and Shane compare to the predator and prey, creator and fledgling dynamic between Lestat and Louis? So again, we have these enemies to lovers with this athletic rivalry with Illya and Shane versus the predator and prey, or creator and fledgling type dynamic between Lestat and Louis. How do those compare?
It's about the passion, right? Both are intense. Is the level and the amount of passion that both of the characters, all of the characters, exhibit towards each other that really, 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 really drives it. Like, it's love and hate for Louis and Lestat, but on the flip side, it's desire and need for Illya and Shane, and those emotions are such parallels, right? Like, how can you, that old movie, it's a thin line between love and hate, right? And you see that consistently in Interview, but what you miss in Interview is the passion and the need that they have in Heated Rivalry. I think there's a need there, but it's just it's expressed differently.
I get that, and I don't disagree with you. But I was kind of stuck on the athletic rivalry between Illya and Shane. I remember several times, especially like in the beginning, Shane was very adamant that no one would know or should know about the two of them, and Illya was like, "Yeah, no, nobody's gonna know." And what I read in that particular moment was, in addition to whatever self-hate that they have going on between them. It was also the fact that the two of them had been pitted as actual rivals, right?
Yeah.
They came into the game at the same time. There was some physical connection. They liked each other physically, right? And so there was an initial physical attraction. But for Louis and Lestat, there was no initial physical attraction. It was mental. It was, I'm going to woo you. I'm going to what's the word that we use when when adults are trying, well, I probably can't say that on YouTube, but anyway, you're trying to slowly get someone into you, if you will. That was kind of like the early dynamics.
Dry begging.
Which is
dry begging.
So Keith Sweat in the 90s, huh?
Yeah.
So for me, with Shane and Illya, of course, our mortals in this situation, you have the enemies to lovers. Okay, so you're automatically pitted, as we discussed before, as rivalries. You guys don't even really know each other, but you start to get there, and it's kind of like a rabbit hole. It's it's this forbidden secret type whole tryst that you have going on, and so I love how that kind of played out. And so essentially, whether it's Russian or of Asiatic descent, you have these, for the most part, white passing males, right? And so you have that piece. So to me, they have a little bit more freedom, right? And then they're human. But when you cross over and you deal with Louis and Lestat, you have the burden of my creator, my lover, my sensei, if you will. You have all of those things are wrapped up in one that makes the relationship and the chemistry and the dynamic a little bit more different, versus you have Shane and Illya. They're of equal ability. They're on the same playing field, if you will, for all intents and purposes, although Illya is Russian, so he has a different upbringing, those things. But as athletes, stripping everything away, we're on the same playing field. With Louis and with Lestat, you don't have that. Lestat is my creator, and so you have an immediate imbalance of power. And so that plays a major or integral part of how that relationship plays out. Now, you can't be weak on Bill Street, as Louis says. And so going back to something that you guys both mentioned earlier, Louis has a whole different upbringing, a whole different set of pressures that he's dealing with. And now he can kind of just relax a bit and let Lestat take the reins. And so now Lestat has taken the reins in several different ways. So.
So how do these power dynamics affect these couples?
Yes. It's uneven. It is uneven. More so on the Louis and Lestat side, to me. More uneven, obviously, because you can't even throw a word like fledgling in the mix with Shane and Illya, simply because they are of equal ability.
I will say I agree but disagree, because here's where they're unequal. Because I think Illya has an easier time adjusting to how he feels about Shane initially and what they're doing together than Shane has with his relationship and his feelings towards Illya. I feel like Illya comes to the conclusion quicker than Shane. What?
Making a face, Jermaine's making a face.
You disagree?
Okay. Yes, I disagree. I do disagree. And this is why I disagree. Hold on, you just talk. So I disagree because There was a moment when all they were doing really was just hooking up, right? They were just hooking up, and then all of a sudden Shane realizes, oh my God, I'm falling in love with this man, right?
Mhm.
Ilya just wanted to have sex. Yes, it is very true that both of them started to realize certain things about each other. Both of them were catering to each other. But Shane realized, I love you. I love you. And that scared him. That freaked him out. He left. They decided, hey, we're going to try again, yada, yada, yada. Try again to have sex. But instead of having sex, Shane approached he had the conversation. He was just like, hey, number one, I think I'm gay. Number two, it's you.
Yeah.
And Ilya was like, what are you saying?
Like, good for you, basically.
We have sex. It's a good time. What's the problem? You know what I'm saying? Like, he was resistant. That's why I say, I don't know. I think it's Shane. But I do want to go back to the question. What was just sum it up? Just the actual question that you asked.
So the enemies to lovers in the athletic rivalry versus the predator prey situation we have with Louis and Lestat, how does it compare?
Okay. So number one, by virtue of the fact that Lestat, gave him this gift, if you will,
Dark
Louis was number one. Louis was. I'm not gonna say he was in love, but he was definitely captured by Lestat. But once he made him a vampire, Louis just automatically loved Lestat and everything about him. Right? It just came naturally to him. The two of them, Ilya and Shane, they had to fight and claw to realize, number one, that they love each other. Also, the power dynamics between Ilya and Shane leading up to then. So there was a time when Ilya had won the Stanley Cup, Shane stopped talking to him. Stop talking to him.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, Shane wins the Stanley Cup. They stop talking to each other again. So you got so there's a real rivalry between the two of them. Now, their feelings were caught up into that as well, but you could say that, some of that was happening, that that natural rivalry. In terms of Louis and Lestat, it took some time for Louis to be like, you about that bullshit. And I ain't feeling it, right? But even then, the way in which he expressed it, it was kind of passive aggressive.
Yeah.
That tracks.
It does. It really does. And the other thing that I think that I kind of forget is that Shane and Ilya's relationship was over the course of like 14 years. Like, it wasn't immediate. So you're absolutely right. I kind of forgot that for a minute, because the way that they shoot the show and the cinematography, you kind of get lost in the time frame of it. But yeah, that happened. All of that happened over the course of 14 years. And it's not like they were hooking up every single time. They were only hooking up when they were playing each other. They only played each other once or twice a year, and maybe once during the playoffs, maybe. And that's over the course of what, 12, 14 years of the show? That's not a lot.
As a mortal, I got annoyed. Like, quit
I
playing
did too.
this game of cat and mouse.
Call
We
him.
are not immortals. Drop the draws, drop your pen, whatever we need to do. But this is taking too long. Like, no, y'all are playing.
Playing games and all this time. But listen, here's the part that just, I love it so much. The need, like, even the course of the time frame, like it never dwindled. Like it just was a consistent build
between Lily and Jane.
Yeah. But listen, it's the thing that gets me is you have the nerve to be jealous of someone that you may see once or twice in the course of a year, but you get jealous over texts and seeing that they're out with someone consistently. But hey, we don't have any connection realistically. In the real world, this is a book, but in the real world, this wouldn't have flied.
Would have had several things going on.
Yeah. There'd have been multiple people that would have been shown in this show.
just to add, so there in Interview with the Vampire, so there's a time when Lestat, well, first of all, Louis wasn't giving it up. So Lestat was like, hey, I'm gonna find old girl over there and we gonna do what we do. But Louis was like, oh, okay. My friend comes home from the war and we gonna do what we do.
Right. Me in the swamp.
That's some emotional manipulation going on right there, which is very similar to what Shane and Illya were doing when it comes to Rose and Svetlana.
Yep.
Yes.
They just use them, but thank goodness Rose had an idea.
She was okay.
And Svetlana too.
Yeah, I love that for both of them actually, because it was needed. Much needed.
Did you cry on the part of the episode when Rose was kind of telling him who he was? I cried a little bit.
I didn't cry. I was relieved though. I was relieved for Shane and I was happy for Shane.
I think that's what it was. It was tears of relief and happiness that finally someone told him the tea. Cause
let me tell you, I cried when he could not answer her. It was just, he was doing this and
he couldn't even say the words.
That's when I cried because I understood it.
I understood it. I remember that. I remember not being able to say the words, but just acknowledging, right? Just acknowledging.
The vulnerability, the safety. And so I was so glad that they didn't write her as a person that caused him harm. And so I was excited. I didn't cry, but I was excited about that simply because he needed to just be able to breathe and just be, somebody that genuinely cares about me. Doesn't matter whether I win a Stanley Cup or play the game cups, whatever it is, 2 girls in 1 cup, don't matter. You care about me as an individual and you are a true friend. And so that was much needed. He can just let his hair down, so to speak. So I love that piece.
What's also sad too is that, and I wish that Illya would have had a similar moment from someone in his life. I would have liked to have seen that, because while Svetlana was there, it was more of a bittersweet type thing between them because she had feelings for him too, right? They just didn't really explore. They showed him playing around, messing around, and how close she was with the family, but they didn't explore the backlash or her feelings on his involvement with Shane.
She was cool with him fucking Sasha.
I know, but
I feel like they had an understanding. I feel like she knew who he was, and I think she was a soft landing for him. To where it's like, okay, we're 2 attractive people.
You like both.
Yeah, and
I like what you're giving.
Right. And
that's really what it was.
Yeah, but at the same time, like essentially we're kind of like family, right? And so I think Illya had that with her, because even when he's being exploited by his brother and all those things are going on and dad dies, and again, a soft landing with her.
Look, this is what she said. She was talking about the text messages between Jane, between he and Jane, and then she said he, and then she said he again.
I remember that.
And he caught it. She was giving him permission, just like she was giving him permission to be with old Sasha in that bathroom.
I couldn't stand Sasha.
Sasha was doing too much, but Sasha was coked up though. To be fair, so you know you can't really blame Sasha. It was drugs. You know,
It was the coke.
Hold the drugs against me. Like it's coked up. Like you can't take that personally.
Now, I do assert that was one of the moments in which Illya realized his life could be different because of the stability that he was getting from a Shane.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily Shane himself, but the stability that Shane was offering him.
All right. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
How do we feel about Scott, and what do we feel about Scott and Kip's story as it relates to the dynamic? Is it completely different than the other two couples that we're talking about, or
it's a lot of the same?
Yeah.
I think they were a great catalyst to make others feel comfortable to come out of the shadows. But again, agreeing with both of you, it's a lot of the same. And again, just very attractive people. Enjoyed watching it play out on the screen. I didn't only watch it 4 times, Corey. Yeah, I know it's sad. I need to grow up. But I've watched it many times.
More than 10 for me. I used to watch it every day.
It's just like,
and cried every time. Same scenes.
Like,
I knew the scene was coming.
Like my memoirs or something. Like I was like, damn, you really don't have nothing to do, huh? Okay. All right, so let's move just a little bit.
I'm gonna put it on the bar just to watch it again.
And the next day, and the next day, and the next day, and then we can talk. We gotta catch up. So, all right, secrecy versus immortality, the closet versus the shadows. So we know that Shane and Illya have to hide their relationships because at this point, Kip and Scott Hunter hasn't happened in the National Hockey League. And then we have Lestat and Louis. They have to hide their true nature to survive because they're immortal. The question is, how does living a double life uniquely strain the relationship?
Well, I'm going to say it was the lack of true and honest communication. I think there were times in which Louis tried to explain what he was dealing with, but Lestat didn't understand. For instance, when they were about to burn a body that I think that Claudia had killed or something like that. Yeah. And Louis was like, hey, you know, I'm a black man. And Lestat was like, oh, here we go again. It was like it was the lack of true and honest communication. The fact that Louis couldn't 100% express what he was feeling in those moments, which kind of let Louis like kind of shut down, if you will, by not expressing those things. And then when it came to Shane and Illya, neither one of them were expressing what they were like actually honestly feeling, especially Illya. Illya, we didn't know what the fuck was going on with Illya until
like halfway through.
No, the last episode. The second to last episode and then the last episode. We didn't really know what was going on. We had glimpses. We had, oh, your dad's a dick. Your mom died. But woof. Yeah, you take it to those last 2 episodes. That was when we knew, but he didn't tell Shane until, they
were about to go to the cottage. Damn near.
Yeah, like he even when he was confessing in Russian, he couldn't confess in English. He had to say it in Russian. So Shane didn't know what the fuck. Yeah. It wasn't until the cottage that Shane actually knew, and Shane was there for him. I think the cottage. Oof, it was so slow of an episode, but there was so much that was unpacked.
It was so much in it. It was so good. It was so good. Just the and it wasn't a whole bunch of dialogue. it was showing the closeness. It was showing the opportunity for them to kind of really be in the space. And I think that's what, for me, that's ultimately what just kind of just sealed it. Chef's kiss to the end of the series, of that season rather, of allowing them that space to do that. And even though they rushed the parent thing in there and all this other kind of stuff, but yeah, that was good too. But even down to the final scenes and the credits rolling, and all you see is them holding hands driving away, in the car, right? That's all they wanted was that
The
piece.
ugly car.
The
I love Illya. I do. I swear.
But okay, so the last show that Illya and I did on Heated Rivalry, we talked about the love languages of Shane and Illya. What were or are the love languages of Louis and Lestat?
I don't look at them. I don't look at their story as love anymore. I see it as codependency and desire. So
physical touch,
that's it.
quality time.
That's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. Done.
Words of affirmation.
Okay. I see that.
Maybe in the truth telling parts, when they finally had enough and they finally just say, you know what, you ain't shit, and this is why you ain't shit.
And they ain't never gonna be.
And ain't never gonna be shit.
Yeah, I think that Lestat really just wanted to dominate Louis.
Yes.
But he didn't call it dominating. He called it, be next to me at all times. For instance, dragging Louis to the opera all the time. Even though Louis didn't want to go, didn't like going. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's one love language. What do you call it? Presence.
Oh yeah. Closeness and
on the part of Lestat.
Was that so much? Was that a love language, or was it possessiveness?
Can we say both?
Yeah, we could say both. We could say both. But here's the thing that I wrestle with Vampire Chronicles. As much as I loved Louis, right? I love the book Louis more so than I love the screen version of Louis, but I understood this series version of Louis that we saw. It's ultimately about the stories about Lestat. He's ultimately the quote unquote hero / anti-hero of the Vampire Chronicles.
Agreed.
So love him, hate him, sick of him. That's he's the main character, and everybody else just kind of revolves around his brat princeness. So I hate that though for Louis, because I've always kind of felt that Louis did not get his happy ending, so to speak.
I think you have to continue to read the books, and then you'll find that he got his happy ending.
Oh, you talking about with David? Is it David? I don't remember who it was with.
No. Much later. Oh yeah.
All right, I'm gonna move on to the passing of time. Speaking of time. All right, so we have Shane and Illya's timeline, which is more urgent, obviously, because they're mortal. So they're bound by a short lifespan and the professional athlete careers, which we know we're not going to be 60 years old being hockey players, right? Versus Louis and Lestat operate on completely different scales because of being immortal. So they have centuries. So how does this perception of time change the stakes of their conflicts and their willingness to change?
That's
Okay.
interesting.
Oh,
So I was gonna say part of the whole issue with their relationship, and by them I'm referring to Louis and Lestat. Part of the whole issue of their relationship is the immortality, right? Being one, Lestat being Louis's maker, and ultimately the issues that present themselves as a result of of him being so possessive and controlling is because of his vampire status, and he wanting Louis ultimately to be more like him, more of a killer, more of this, more of that, and lose his human side faster than what Louis wanted to do. I ultimately I think that's one of the issues in their relationship.
Chew on that, because when we get to my next question, I feel like it'll kind of circle into what you just said.
But we have issues with time on Ilya and Shane's story too. I think it took too long for them to get to the end.
I'm impatient and I hate waiting.
what do you mean? What do you mean, Corey?
We just talked about this. I feel the 16, 14 years, however long it was, right? I just think that it was just so long.
Whereas I love the show and I agree with Corey, like I would have probably written in a lot more of the hoes, and all of that time, like it would have been some more display of some other things happening in between, because I'm like, so like Shane wasn't getting buzzed down at all,
right? Like his back wasn't getting broke, none,
and like no hand jobs, no nothing.
So
he didn't meet nobody else that he wanted to hunch on.
If you read the books, yes, he did. He had like two, I think it was two other people that he, did something with. But it was like in and around the time that he and Ilya were just having sex and there were no feelings. Right?
Which is cool. I would have liked to see it. Like over all of these years, it's just the way they painted it was he was his one and only in the show.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. Just remember though, Shane and his personality, he has to feel real comfortable with someone before he did something like that.
I need to go back and read Heated Rivalry. I said I was going to pick up the series in the second book because I didn't want to reread the stuff that we've already seen, because I didn't want to compare the two.
So the first book is Kip and
yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Which I ain't gonna lie, like it was a good book. It was a good book. It's just that the character Ilya popped off in a major way.
Mm-hmm. Is it because of the actor Connor Story and his sex appeal, you think, or is it the way that the book itself?
It was the way that she wrote Ilya. Ilya would say whatever he felt like saying, and it was always funny. And so, as a character, and you're reading and you get to laugh because of him, it's like I like him. He's an asshole, but he's funny, so I like him.
I think there's another book that's coming out too.
Yeah, this summer. Can't wait.
So I need to catch up.
All right, so
she has a lot of books.
She does.
And redemption breaking toxic cycles. Growth and redemption breaking toxic cycles. So both relationships feature periods of mutual hurt, of course, codependency, and emotional manipulation. What is the turning point for Ilya and Shane that allows them to transition into a healthy partnership? And why do Lestat and Louis struggle so much harder to reach stability? I feel like Corey addressed it a little bit in the last question. But the turning point or tipping point for Shane and Ilya transitioning to a healthy partnership versus why our immortals are struggling.
So for Ilya and Shane, it was the cottage.
Yep.
So much happened at the cottage that it allowed both of them to break their walls down, so to speak.
And the catalyst of that was seeing Scott and Kip.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was it.
If that hadn't happened, I don't think we would have had Cottage.
You're 100% correct. Because remember, it was Shane when Shane was in the hospital. He was like, come to the cottage. You're gonna enjoy yourself. It's just gonna be the two of us. No one will be there. All that. That was Shane basically saying, hey dude, I'm into you. Come on. But Illya was like, nope, not gonna do it. Not gonna do it. But things happened, and then they got there, and because both of them were able to, especially Illya. Illya was the first one at the cottage to break his walls.
Literally.
I was on mute.
To the second part of the question, why do Lestat and Louis struggle? It's I've been saying it's because Lestat leads with dominance. And he refuses to listen. He refuses to do the work, if you will, to help heal the person who's asking for help.
That's fair. Corey T, anything to add?
I'm going back to Illya and Shane. I would almost say that we could even take it a step further when they really start to solidify their bond was when he actually did have the accident on the ice. And because they made, one of the announcers kept pointing out the fact that how concerned he looked, and I think that solidified. It started to solidify. You know what? This is a little bit more serious than I've been behaving or believing, and you don't have those moments of concern. I don't know if I remember one time where Lestat.
Watch your mouth. Watch your mouth, but please continue.
I don't recall if there was one time where there was a moment where Lestat showed compassion or concern for Louis in the same vein. But maybe because it's two different types of shows, and that's not what you're leaning into with this show.
I don't know about the same vein, but I will say, and it could have been more of Lestat just trying to be manipulative, but I'm gonna go on the opposite simply because I am a Lestat girl. So
me too.
Just in the realm of the show versus the book, right? We have this black man who is basically in the age of Jim Crow and all of these things. At that game, he slows everything down and is like, hey, why are you allowing them to do this? Why are you allowing them to do that? No, you're better than this. You're more than that. And so the compassion for him just being more than just a black man, but just a human in general. So to get you to view yourself in a higher regard than what you're allowing these quote unquote white businessmen to treat you.
I'll piggyback. There was one time too where he got some vengeance on behalf of Louis. I can't remember the exact situation, but I do recall him doing something that I was like, there you go, So it's different.
Right. Jermaine, any more about that?
No.
All right. So before we close out, just one last question from me. And so we're going to look at the different media formats or the impact of sports. And so our genres are romance or whatever versus the gothic horror, right? Mm-hmm. So how do these conventions of their respective genres, how do they affect how we judge the toxic behaviors? So we have the romance versus gothic horror. How do the conventions of their respective genres change how we judge the toxic behaviors?
Well, number one, Interview with a Vampire, it's gothic horror. And so therefore they are allowed to, even though both are dealing with psychological trauma and all of that, they are allowed to show gore and do villainy type things, and that's exactly what we see from Interview with a Vampire. And that because Lestat always takes it a step times 10 too far. I think Interview with a Vampire is much more toxic than Heated Rivalry. Heated Rivalry is much more closer to reality, and so therefore it's something that we understand intrinsically. Whereas Interview with a Vampire, they go over the top, and so therefore, the trauma is next level, and so therefore it's really toxic.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's also, the whole romantasy, that whole genre leads with love, it leads with passion, healthy passion more so than a gothic horror novel or story would. So of course we view certain aspects of Heated Rivalry a bit more favorable than we would if it was a gothic horror romance, right? Because Interview with the Vampire is also a romance too. It's just a gothic horror romance. So it is. I mean, it really is. So, and I think that really kind of colors our perception of both shows. And you can see in the way that we've been talking about it, tonight, how our thought processes lend a little bit more credibility to Heated Rivalry in certain aspects of emotion and feeling and those things, as opposed to what we would do for Interview with the Vampire.
All right. So ordinarily, we have our Books, Girls, and Purrs popping in late. I'll watch what I missed on Team Replay. All right, Books, Girls, and Purrs. She always shows up. Hey, boo. And so as we close out, we normally rate things in inches for Heated Rivalry. Everything else we rate from Mayfair to 10.
I'm so mad.
But I'm not mad at it. I love it. So the barometer for this installment, I would like us to look at what we're looking at as far as it pertains to our chaotic companions. Are we going with our dark shadows or our hot ice? Where are we? Our dark shadows being Louis and Lestat, and our hot ice being Shane and Illya. Which couple or couple dynamic resonates with you more as far as just drawing you in, whether it's the chaos or whatever it may be? Just we're picking a side. I know we love both of these couples, that's why we're here. But if you have to lean toward more, toward one side than the other, are we going with our dark shadows? Or are we going hot ice? Dark shadows or hot ice? Gotta pick one side. No fence straddling. We love to straddle. But we're not straddling the fence today, Corey T. You and I are infamous for that. That Jermaine is doing a body roll. So that's how you know that it's serious. Either you are dark shadow or you are hot ice. You gotta pick.
I'll go first. I'm hot ice. And the reason for it is because in both of those characters, I saw myself in so many different ways. I understood both of them. I understood both characters on a level that I didn't appreciate until the end of that particular show. And don't get me wrong, I still love Interview with a Vampire. I still think Interview with a Vampire is one of the best shows out there. I really do. Can't wait till it comes out next month. In just over a week, right? Can't wait. But Shane and Illya, for me, hot ice.
Hot ice. Dark shadows or hot ice. I love that. Thank you, Jermaine. Corey T. Williams. All right. Dark Shadows, Hot Ice. Which side? Again, no offense, straddling. We love to straddle.
Listen, I already know my answer, and you're not gonna be surprised. It's got to be Hot Ice. And here is the reason. While I love interviewing, I have loved interviews since I was 14, first reading Anne Rice and discovering Anne Rice in the library, and realizing, I like men, right? But this tapped another level of passion and or desire and something that I think we needed to see in male storytelling that I don't think we've seen before, right? It gave something a little bit more than what we're used to in terms of these types of stories. And so, like Jermaine, I saw myself in both of the characters, or I saw what I wanted when I was that age, right? In 2021, right? What I was looking for, someone to desire me or want me in the way that those two wanted each other. So it just, I just loved it. I loved it.
By the way, I love what he did by bringing the characters Kip and what's that man name?
Scott.
And Scott.
Yes.
Episode 3. Oh.
Because it was sweet. It wasn't like, it was a nice little, it was like a nice cool drink. When the rest of the series is scorching you with heat, right? And need and want and everything, right? It was a nice little cool drink. Their little brief reprieve, their little brief part of the story, right? I loved it. Loved it. I can't wait for the second season.
Jermaine, you want to read our comments?
So sure. Books, Guns, and Purrs says Heated Rivalry made me feel like I didn't know what I was missing, and I'm a borderline misandrist.
Oh no, Books, Girls, and Purrs. No, we not misandrists. We love the boys. Thank you, Boo. For me, I'm gonna go Dark Shadow. As opposed to
we knew that there wasn't no question.
he's like that's not a shock or a surprise. We already know. But to be fair, both shows did so many different things well, right?
Yes.
But I feel like the quadruple consciousness, if you will, that Louis has had to endure with how everything was written just kind of sold me over just a little bit more, outside of just the romance. It was just so many things. And so I feel like I'm gonna go Dark Shadows just a little bit more. The fact that this man nearly broke every bone in your body and you still were like,
and you still want him.
Well, I mean, I am immortal, so I will heal. It might take a while, but you still took your ass back over there. And
listen, I get that too. I totally understand that feeling.
And so even though it was gothic horror, to me that was still very human. I have been that person that has not made the right choices. And so even though all the red flags, red banners, red rooms, everything's there, but you still make the wrong choice. And so for me, it's just the Dark Shadows just tipped a little bit more. But let me be very, very clear. Heated Rivalry gave me the things. And as we talked about on some of the episodes that we recorded, if you can get me to tear up or at least have the urge to tear up, that's a great freaking episode, a great show, great writing, to pull that emotion out of me. Because we all know that I've talked about it repeatedly and religiously. I've had my tear ducts removed in 1984. That's not something that's a thing for me. It's crying. So if you can get me to have that build up to where I want to cry, oh my God, that's just good goddamn writing. Okay. And so, yes, it's going to be Dark Shadows for me.
So let me say this too, though. It was really, really close. So It was really close for me, and I almost said Dark Shadows just because of remembering how when I first read Anne Rice's books and what it did for me then, even though it wasn't overt uh gayness, right? It was there and you understood it. Um I was just I couldn't vote against my boys. I couldn't.
I love that. It was authentic, and thank you, Lestat all the way. Come on. Thank you for picking a side for us. I know you and I are similar in that vein. A lot
Ooh,
of
it's so hard.
Well, it's so hard. 10. 10's across the board.
I tried not to. I tried not to.
I don't ever try not to. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh my goodness.
But it's because 2 things or 3 things can be true at once, and so I get it. But I'm glad that we were all able to pick a side, and go from there. Well,
Now, I'm
anyway,
not going to promise that I'm
thank
going to
you
be
all
able to
for-
do this in future episodes. Picking a side.
I would
can't
never
promise
ask
that.
you to. I would never
Okay.
ask you to because I am notorious for straddling many things. But so
Well,
anyway,
I could ask you to. Which do you prefer, Mayfair Witches or Heated Rivalry?
do you have to ask? Heated rivalry. Heated rivalry.
The
I will
silence.
I will pick peanut butter and hot sauce on a toe of a diabetic before I would choose Mayfair over anything.
Okay,
No.
wait a minute. Wait. Mayfair or Talamasca?
Talamasca.
Talamasca.
Yeah.
Talamasca. With
Yeah,
as
they
much
did us
as
wrong with
fills
that.
it out. As much as they fills it out.
They did us wrong with that one. And we still gonna watch Mayfair on season 3 when they're because I'm just curious.
Just so I can have something to say. If they bring it back, I'm gonna watch it.
Oh, it's coming back with a season 3. That's the amazing thing. They canceled Talamasca, but they ain't canceled Mayfair. I don't understand these.
I don't understand. I think they want to intersect the two. I think they want to intersect Mayfair and Interview, but I don't want them to do that because I feel like it's gonna mess up Interview.
Please don't do that. No one asked for that.
We did not ask for that. Because in the books, there's like 2 books where Lestat kind of has a little side adventure with the Mayfair Witches, I believe.
So Books, Girls, and Purrs says, poor Talamasca. They went out in a whimper.
All right. So thank you for joining us for our Dark Shadows and our Hot Ice. We will see you all next time. Until later.
We've got questions and we know you have answers, so make love to our senses in the comments. Drop them down below.